evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Community Updates and Enlightened Hearts. We are here tonight, and we've got another hot topic and things that we're going to be talking about. We have I'm your host, Michelle White, and we have your host, my co-host, Miss Regina Hall, who is our licensed therapist, and we're going to be talking about some of the things in the community. We have two wonderful young ladies here this evening, Dr. Marie Shoulders and Miss Ayanna Walters, and I got your name right here in front of me. So they have a wonderful organization called Wake Up,
yes,
which is warriors achieving knowledge, education, and understanding pathways to purpose. So we're going to be talking about that organization and all the wonderful things that they're doing in the community. So we are glad you are here. You can watch us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. And please, when you have questions or something you want to chime in on, you can call us at 313-355-6018. Again, that number is 313-355-6018. And as we always do, we like to share a little bit of information, community information with you. And a couple of things we're going to share is I've been telling you about the Detroit Training Center, which is an organization for builders. So people that need to get their builder's license. Everywhere you go, you see building happening in the city of Detroit. Everywhere. Building apartments, building businesses, building Amazons, building. And for years, people say, Detroit was broke. Detroit's broke. It was never broke. It was never broke. That's a whole nother conversation for a different day, but it was never broke. So all this money that you see, but you've got to get your builder's license if you want to work with the companies, with Showstack and Turner and the construction companies. So the Detroit Training Center has another training coming up in the month of April. Matter of fact, the registration begins April 3rd until April the 22nd. And just call the Detroit Training Center and you can take courses to get your license. If you're a drywall person or the painter or whatever you do in the area of construction, get your license so that you can work with these companies. So call the Detroit Training Center at 313-221-5876. Again, that's 313-221-5876, or go to DetroitTraining.com. Please do that today. Don't miss out. Before when Archer was in office, the training was $250. Now it's $650, but they do it with the $350 down payment, and then they give you time to pay the rest. Don't let those opportunities pass by. We want you to get your license so that you can go out and help build some of these wonderful structures that are being created.
Yes.
And then last week we had Pastor Keon Payton on, and we were talking about adverse childhood experiences and an upcoming seminar that is this Friday, March the 31st. So we want you to sign up for it. Go to their website so that you can sign up for the impact of adverse childhood experiences, which is ACEs, ACES. And they're going to be at the Huntington Tower this Friday, March the 31st from 9 until 4:30. The event is free, but you have to go to dwc.org to sign up. dwc.org to sign up for the ACES convention. And I think I'm saying that wrong. You go to dwctraining.com, dwctraining.com to sign up for the ACES event that's taking place this Friday, March the 31st, from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Again, the event is absolutely free. And when you go to the website, you'll also see many other wonderful trainings, and particularly for people that are in social work, people that are working with mental health patients, but also for people that are working in the community. This past Saturday, one of the things I do is working in the community, and we were giving free furniture out to people. And a wonderful time. I tell you, I'd ask God to hold back the rain and the winds, because here the weather in Michigan, and we have people that are listening from all around. But the weather here in Michigan Saturday was tumultuous. It was rain and wind. And I said, Lord, if you could please just hold it back in the areas where we will be moving, because we have 3 places to pick up furniture and 2 places to deliver furniture to people that had absolutely nothing. One gentleman only had a blow-up bed in his house.
Yeah.
And I posted it on my Facebook page. But isn't that awesome?
Yes.
It's a wonderful thing. But God held back the rain and the winds everywhere we were. Everywhere when we were going and coming, it was raining. When we were at the gas station, it was raining, it was windy. But everywhere we were moving, peaceful, nothing. So it made it easier for the process. So I'm a part of the Lions Club International, and that was one of the things that we do. So we're collecting furniture for that. We're collecting donations. If you have donations that you want to give, go to MetroDetroitLions.com. If they're financial donations, and earmark it for a Lions Club. That's MetroDetroitLions.org. MetroDetroitLions.org if you want to give financial donations. And that helps to go towards the truck rentals, the paying a stipend to the movers, and for the gas. Those are nominal fees, but if everybody can give $10, that helps towards putting furniture in someone's home that doesn't have furniture. And last but not least, I've been telling you about Ready Fresh. Our water system has been, we need to drink more water and just keep our bodies fit. And then our water is being polluted. And one of the reasons, even with the giving the furniture away, it helps the environment. The recycling and waste don't go into our landfills.
Yeah.
And so Ready Refresh, if you want to get this water filtration system, is really sleek, it's really nice. It comes in different colors to go right in your kitchen or wherever you want it, in black or red. They have different systems similar to like an Pure, but it doesn't go on the top. The water's under the bottom, so it's kind of hidden. And you have hot water and warm water and cold water. And you can call 248-798-0232. They deliver it right to your door. There's nothing to put together, and they bring you your gallons of water, or 5-gallon bottles of water, every 3 to 4 months for like $30. And it's all done, comes right to your door. So for Ready Refresh, you give them a call at 248-798-0232. Again, that's 248-798-0232. So we've got some questions today that we want to ask our guests and find out more about your program and what you're doing. And I know you all have a few events coming up, and so you're going to tell us about those, an HIV event, and some other things you have coming up. But first, tell us, how did you get started with this, Dr. Shoulders? And I know you all work together.
Yes.
Well, Yana, you want to go first because you can tell them about how you founded and named it.
Yeah, so I currently work at Wayne State University as a research nurse that we are researchers with patients that have HIV, infants through adults. So I've seen the numbers. Within in the African American community, and I'm like, we gotta do something different to get the message and prevention out, especially with our youth. So created Youth Wake Up in 2010 in my living room with my 3. They were 3 teenagers at the time, and I said, bring your friends over. We're going to talk about sex and safe sex practices, because I tell everyone we all got here someone's having sex, so learn to protect yourself. It's a natural thing. Don't be ashamed about it. Talk about it. And so from there, I asked Dr. Shoulders to do, a few years after that, asked to do a teen summit, and she spoke and was interested and came on board, and just been working side by side. And so that's, like I said, we started in 2010, and like I said, I see the numbers, and I actually went to a Detroit public school event where the youth wasn't engaged. They were at a conference, and it was a sex education conference, but they wasn't engaged. So we try to bring the message through music, through monologues, through poetry, and also not just bringing youth to talk about sex, bring other components, because a lot of parents, they're not comfortable with talking about sex. So we've had programs where we teach the parents how to talk to your youth or your teens about sex. also bringing college prep and skilled trades, because college is not for everyone. You know?
How do you talk to? I did the same thing with my son and my nephew, my godchildren, and I set those little fellas down. I didn't really talk to the girls. I don't remember talking to the girls, and I just had a bold-faced conversation with them about sex, and they was like, Auntie, but they needed to know. They think they know everything, and you don't know anything. You think you know, or let me tell, or then I would say, well, what do you know?
Right.
And they would tell me, and some kind of way the children are thinking that oral sex is not sex.
Exactly.
I say you still catch a disease.
They don't understand.
They don't
Right.
understand that.
Yeah.
You can't let everybody touch your whatever, the girl or the boy.
Right.
So how do you start that conversation?
Well, make it comfortable. First
Okay.
of all, don't have it in like a, strict. Make, like I said, we bring in other components, like I said, music. I wrote some monologues about different scenarios pertaining to HIV. HIV is just not an LGBTQ disease. It's across all. You have so many.
A lot of our youth are getting HIV.
Well, yeah, but a
challenge.
lot of youth are born with HIV too.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they're at an age where they're having sex and and having families. But we don't talk about the perinatal component of HIV. You always hear about, you don't even really hear about the IV drug users. It's all about the MSM.
What is the MSM?
So men having sex with men.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so many different components of HIV we just don't talk about. And so just having it in a comfortable atmosphere, not just talking about sex per se, but bringing mental health and you got to be ready to have sex. We don't say, okay, here's a kind of have sex. We our first thing is abstinence. You have to be ready mentally to have sex. And
do you guys teach abstinence to the youth?
yes, we do.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they need to be abstinent.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah.
opinion.
But
Yeah.
the reality is, they understand, they hear the talk, but they're not really practicing what is being preached.
Yeah.
And so, when I talk to my young people, I always tell them that it's a big responsibility when you take on doing adult things. And if you're going to play the game, then you should know the rules. And rule number 1 is protect yourself. And
What do they say when they say, "Well, I want to feel the meat"?
I tell them it's okay if you want to feel the meat, but if you want to feel the burn, you're going to also feel that too. And that's
good.
part of the responsibility of protecting yourself. Because once you get an STD, if it goes untreated for too long, it can scar your reproductive organs closed. And when you meet that Mr. Wonderful one day and you want to have children and start a family, it's a possibility that neither of you will be able to, because his reproductive tubes and tract can be scarred closed as well, and the sperm won't be able to travel through.
Are a lot of our
egg will
youth
travel
getting
through.
STDs? I mean, a high percentage.
I would say, I run an adolescent health center. I work for Ascension Osborne. We
Okay.
have an adolescent health center inside of Osborne High School.
Oh, that's
Excuse me.
wonderful.
So we tested 140 students, and we had 13 positive, so roughly 10%.
That have
And that's what we
STDs
see, positive.
for STDs. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So roughly 10% were positive. We see chlamydia and gonorrhea most in the age groups from 13 to 24. That's that age group where 13, they're just getting busy, just learning about sexuality, trying to decide who they are and what they like. And then that's that age group who does not use condoms.
What age
regardless
group
of
are
the
you
education.
finding? What's the youngest age? What the age group that you see young people starting to have sex? 10, 11, 13?
Well, in my work now, I see it from 14 to the 18-year-olds. The
13
ninth
on my
grades
13 on your end?
and the ninth
Yeah.
graders.
Girls and boys? Well, they got to be having it with somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I wanted to ask though, when you mentioned about you saw the numbers going up. What was the statistics for you when you saw those numbers going up? And I believe you said that the STDs were going up.
STDs and then the HIV diagnosis too. So
As well as syphilis.
yeah, so syphilis, we have I won't say a running joke, but it's like a saying. Syphilis is like water in the city of Detroit. Yes.
Syphilis is like water.
Yeah.
And so what's the age range? It's starting early because you said 13. So are you
Yes.
finding that?
Well, I would say with syphilis from 16 on up.
Wow.
From
Okay.
16 and up, especially with the pandemic and COVID, we were on a shutdown, so the numbers have went up because what else is there to, what I'm saying? What else is there to do? And they want youth for not protecting themselves.
We've got parents who are listening on the phone. Please call us at 313-355-6018. Let us know some of the things. How did you talk to your children? Or maybe you're needing to talk to them now and want to hear what things can you tell me? How can I talk to my children without, should I send them to your program? What do I say to them, to my youth now on how to prevent them from having the sex? How do I start the conversation with my son and with my daughter? Give us a call, or maybe you have already passed that time where you've talked to your youth. Maybe they've grown now, but what did you say? How did you handle it? And you don't have to say your name when you're calling. We're here, and anonymity is great. Yeah. And then we've got a therapist, a licensed therapist that's here to answer your questions, to hear your challenges that you're having, which is another reason why we really wanted to do that. Too many people are having challenges and they're not talking to someone. So give us a call here, 313-355-6018. Again, 313-355-6018, and let us know how you're handling. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question for either one of you. What I wanted to understand, because Michelle was saying that, that she made the comment about the girls feeling, well, I want to feel the skin, or even both of them, the girls or the boys. But a lot of girls are afraid. I work with young girls, are afraid to say no because of the losses. How do we talk to the girls about that? And then the boys feel like they have to intimidate or have to say something to the girls because of the face that they want to keep. So those two questions, and then I have a follow-up. So either one.
So when I'm discussing sexual behaviors with my young ladies and young men, I first start off asking them what they like.
Great.
So what type of sexual behaviors are you engaged in?
Okay.
And if I understand what types of sexual behaviors they engage in, then I can better teach them what to do. Because some women and young men.
And we've got a caller. We've got a caller. Hold on, caller.
Sex.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Oral sex. And then I have to explain to them that oral sex is sex. What part of oral sex do you not understand?
Okay.
So if they engage in oral sex, I have to tell them that anything that you do that involves sex must be covered up.
All
Well,
right.
I can't feel it. As I said, so then you have to experiment with different types of condoms to see what works for you. Because you got some real thin, you got lubrication, you got different things like that will help you feel the full effect of the act, but still protect you at the same time.
Very good.
Okay, wonderful. We're going to come back to that
Yeah,
too.
sure.
So we've got a caller. Are you there, caller? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening. What is your question or comment that you'd like to share with us this evening?
I would like to know if they are going into the churches and talking to the congregants and the parents. I was one of those people that I just was a woman of faith and just thought that my daughter was, going to keep a straight line in regards to her activities with sex. So I really did not share how to protect herself. She started her menstrual at 9 years old. So she had lots of information about hygiene and cleanliness and that kind of thing. But being a woman of God and in the church, I don't know. I just think I had my head in the sand and not saying to her that if you need to do this if you find you wanting to experiment or discover your body or whatever.
Right.
And I did not really have those open communication discussions with her.
And you're
So
not
I'm
by
just curious
yourself,
to
and
know.
many people don't,
Yeah.
especially in
In
the
the
church.
In the church.
I was
Exactly.
invited. I was invited to come and speak to a whole congregation regarding sexual behavior, specifically HIV. So I spoke to the congregation. I first started off by going through the history of HIV, and then getting down to judgment, where we have homosexual, trans, and all different types of people in the world that we have to acknowledge. And the church is the one place where you would think they would not be judged, where they're the most judged.
Exactly.
And they really don't like to talk about their sexuality because they're going to be judged. And they're taught to judge, and they're taught that what they like is wrong, and so on and so forth. So what I did was I just talked about how we must protect ourselves no matter what you choose, which way you choose to go. And like I tell my youngsters, I don't care what you do, but I do care how you do it. So just protect yourself. And you have to be frank and open and use a language that young people understand. You have to talk their language, and to explain to them that there's costs, responsibilities, consequences of not protecting yourself.
Thank you for that. So now for our caller, caller, if you would like to have Miss Shoulders maybe come to your church, or have whoever would set that up at your church, she's available to come and speak to youth at your church or any churches. And how would they get in touch with you, Dr. Shoulders?
313-999-6898.
That's 313-999-6898.
Yes, and to address that further, Wake Up, we will come as an organization and speak to and address that issue. If she wants to talk with her one-on-one, we can arrange that. But if she has friends, if her daughter has friends or other young people, we have workshops coming up, and we have teacher materials and pamphlets.
So get your pencil out, caller, because they're going to be sharing a few events that they have coming up shortly. And then also, let's talk about the girls. There are a lot of girls having relations with girls that are little people, youngsters. Yes, ma'am.
No, to the caller. I'm not sure, Ayanna, did you feel like...
I just wanted to give the email. You can email us as well as wakeupdetroit@yahoo.com.
That's wake up, and it's with 2 P's.
Detroit.
Detroit.com.
And also, too, as far as like, how do you talk to your team? One of the things I did, and also have done with other youth, is show pictures. Like, did a picture like, okay, this is what this
pictures
was.
of disease.
Yes. I have a ring with colorful pictures.
Okay.
But now,
That's
how do
great.
we explain that? Caller, did you have any other questions? Or did that answer your question? Are you still there? She might have hung up. Okay. So, but thank you, caller, for calling, and I hope that some information that was just given was helpful for what you asked. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
and I just wanted to share real quick when we talk about the church, right? The sexuality, the identity, not really talking about that. We kind of hit on that last week about the trauma that kids are experiencing, the lack of love, trying to find it in various places because maybe some things that they went through in their home, and they're looking for that approval. Particularly a lot of information now they get from social media. I mean, a lot of information they get from social media. So when you think about all of that, and then the church treating it as taboo, I can only imagine that makes your work a little harder, right?
Yes,
And so
it does.
how do you really tackle that? Because again, the church doesn't want to talk about it.
Right.
They treat
Keep
something
your
that
panties
God
up and your
made
dress down.
as nasty. God made it,
Yes.
but it's nasty.
But we're here to tell them that it's not.
It's
And-
not.
and it's natural, and this is
And
how
the
you got
teen
here.
sex
And then it
and teen
become
pregnancy is
wives
nothing
and
new.
think that it's nasty.
That's true.
And it's not going away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like in my mother's day and my grandmother's day, my grandmother was 15, married with a baby and running her own house.
Okay.
My mother was
At
17.
15.
Yeah,
Okay.
my mother was 17, married and running her own house. But the times are changed.
Yes,
Everything's
yes.
different now. You can't just go out and get a job like in a factory and so on and so forth, like when my mother and my grandmother, you know, were raising their families. And so now, when someone becomes sexually active, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, you know, everybody want to pull their hair out. But instead of pulling their hair out, you got to start talking to them as soon as they show signs that they're interested in learning about sex. You cannot wait on it. You
And so we have to
explain
be,
it.
parents have to be more in tune
Yes.
with their children.
Absolutely.
And go through their things.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I was about to
Look
bring
at
that
their
up.
drawers.
Do
and
a phone
phone
check.
checks.
Yes.
Do phone
And it don't
checks.
matter.
And
Oh,
just
I
talk
don't want
to
to
'em.
violate their privacy.
No,
Stop trying to
no.
be their friend and be their
No.
parent.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't have to
talk
always tell them. I'm just keeping an eye on what you're doing. And if I need to talk to them,
them. The key is to watch the behavior.
watch the behavior.
That's
right.
very important.
And some parents are not comfortable. We can stress parents talk.
Right.
So if you're a parent, if you're not comfortable, you like I said, you can reach out to us.
Yes.
The village comes in.
Reach out
That's
to
exactly
school. You know,
where the
there's
village
some
come in.
schools that may have particular programs. So we're not going to say push it off because every parent is not
Right.
comfortable doing
That's
it.
correct.
Village comes in.
I know
Right.
when I was growing up, my parents, they didn't talk to me about anything. They keep your panties up and your dress down.
My mother
Yes.
said
They
that
weren't comfortable
Yes.
talking about that.
is what she was taught.
Yeah.
She
And
said what?
my mother said that's what she was taught.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And she never wanted her girls or her boys to be unequipped out there in the world and learning how to navigate through relationships with no knowledge at all on how to protect yourself or even defend yourself.
And even using those terms, my dad's term was "don't become a revolving door." Do you know? I really didn't understand what he was saying until I got older. I was like, "Oh, that's because he was talking about a door." That was his words. Don't become a revolving door.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they didn't understand how to talk to us
No,
about it.
not at all.
And
But-
now they probably are learning too much between movies and
social
Yes.
media.
social media.
Everything is everything. If feel good, do it. That's
And see,
what
that's
they're
it.
being taught.
That's it. And when you even talk about, I was talking to a young man, and he was confused, and
About what?
about his sexuality. He was confused, but he began to say, "Well, I believe it because I saw it on social media." They get a lot of their
influence.
knowledge,
Influence.
a lot of
Like
influence.
the Pied Piper.
Yeah.
Social media has become the Pied Piper and it's taken over.
And it's in the cartoons.
It is.
It's,
Everywhere.
I had to
Yeah.
monitor my
Music.
grandchildren's
Yes,
cartoons. I'm
absolutely.
looking at a
Yes.
cartoon with them one day, and thank God I was watching it. And I said, what is this on the cartoon? And turn that one off, and let's probably find some Bugs Bunny or something.
Let's
Yeah.
find some books.
Some books. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So how do you? Because the church doesn't want to talk about it. The parents are afraid because I believe some of the conversation, even with my daughter, like the caller, she exposed her daughter to the hygienes and understanding her, being in that pubic stage and. They at one time was doing that in school. It's been years now. I don't even know if they doing that in schools, but that was something that they would approach, and then they would show how a baby came about.
Right.
I don't even know if that's happening anymore, but it happened when I was in school. But I believe a lot of sex education, a lot of parents came up against it because they didn't want to give permission for their kids to get involved. But
that's
they
like
are
wearing
giving
blinders.
right, and they are giving permission though to social media because they'll stick a TV,
Or a
a
tablet.
iPad. Yes,
And let
they'll
it
stick.
babysit the children. And
Yes.
that's what's happening. But the reality is, you cannot bury your head in the sand.
That's right.
At some point in life, the child is going to be sexually active. And so it's better to give them knowledge. As soon as you start noticing behaviors, that they start asking you questions, take it as a season, as a teachable moment.
How
to
early
talk to
do you
them.
think people should start?
As early as they can understand and ask questions.
Yes.
Because
I mean,
the
not
more
6
they
or
know,
7, but maybe
the better.
10 or 12.
Maybe
Well,
eight.
it
depends
It
on how-
depends
on
the
how they're
maturity of the
and just
child.
Or how
what they've been exposed
promiscuous or
to.
exposed.
Yeah.
Okay.
what they've been exposed to, you watch the behavior.
And you have to ask questions because
Yeah.
I say 90% of our clients I work at Horizons Clinic, which caters to pediatrics, adolescents that have HIV, either born or behavior. And our behavior clients, 90% of them have been molested.
Yes.
So we need to talk about that
That's
as
that
well.
adverse childhood
See, that's what-
experiences.
yeah.
We had a
Yes,
conversation
right.
about
And that's
that
what I was talking
at our
about.
last session.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
so important that you said that. So 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 13 boys, and then I think 1 in 8 by the age of 10. So you have these large numbers going on, and yet the parents want to even stick their head in the sands about that, and don't
tragic.
know how to confront it or taking on blame. So it's just so much out there, so many
Sweeping under the
layers.
rug. Yes.
Yeah.
And then too, you think about young when they are active, the young ladies are active. Well, she's so fast, and
Yes.
but
Right, she gets labeled.
She gets labeled, but do you know her story? Do you know what happened?
Yeah.
And then nobody's asking what happened.
Yes.
Right.
And then they, I was at a church speaking on some issues, and some of the church members were commenting on how
Okay.
the
Thank
little
you.
girl was dressed. And I had to speak in and say, hey,
Yeah.
she don't buy her clothes.
That's right. Good for you.
She don't buy her clothes.
That was awesome.
So we have to look to the parents for some of this behavior too.
So, caller, we thank you for calling in. Please tell us what is your question or your comment.
Okay. I keep hearing Dr. Shoulders talk about a child's behavior or signs to watch for. Please explain what those signs are.
I'm
And
so
then
glad you
secondly, I
asked.
want to encourage as you guys mentioned about the adverse childhood experiences and the fact that so many children are being molested and fondled with at home
Yes.
as small children, not to wait until they are in puberty or when they are experiencing their periods and things like that. But I think a lot of times, and I think the other lady, I forget her name, but she mentioned about male sex with males. And so many men are coming out of the prison system and maybe having relations with a woman, and the children are there. And I hear that there's a lot of situations that happen under those circumstances.
Yeah. So to answer your question about the behavior, trust is important.
Yeah.
And when you raising children, whether they be your children, grandchildren, or just children that are in your care. So one of the red flags is masturbation. If they never were exhibiting that types of behavior in the past, where did it come from? Does somebody stimulate that person? Now they stimulate themselves. Another red flag would be once they were outgoing, open, and now they become closed and introverted and not appearing to enjoy those things that they used to enjoy.
Yes.
Being afraid to go with certain people. Crying when you say, we going here, we going there. Different behaviors like that, you have to not dismiss. You have to pay attention to those red flags. And if the child trusts you and you're in a loving relationship, they'll tell you. they'll tell you that so and so said this, did that, or made me feel uncomfortable. And they'll tell you, I'm afraid that something bad might happen. I don't like when I go here. I don't like when I go there. This person's touching me. It doesn't have to be penetration all the time, but it can work
touching you in the
itself
wrong
up
place.
To that.
to penetration. So you have to really pay attention, watch your child behavior.
And don't dismiss what
You
they
cannot.
say.
Or having
Even if it's
having
at school.
nightmares.
Yeah,
Mm.
nightmares.
Yes.
There's so many red flags. You have to pay attention. You can't dismiss it.
I
So
love
that's
that.
what I mean.
So
Yeah,
we
that's
thank
very
you,
good.
caller, for calling
Did I
and
answer your
sharing
question?
those signs. Did she answer your question with the signs? Well,
Pardon
we've
me?
got another caller calling in. Thank you, caller. Hello, our next caller. Did you have a question or a comment you wanted to share? Are you there, caller? Can you hear us? Okay. Well, whoever was calling, please call back. But Dr. Shoulders just shared some wonderful signs that we have to look out for because trust is very important with a child, and we need to look out if they're masturbating too early, if they become introverts when once they were an extrovert, they were, comfortable being around people. And if they're afraid to go with a particular person, and it can be a relative. Oftentimes, it's
Which
usually
it
a
is,
relative
right.
that their
Yes.
children
Someone close that they trust.
that they trust, and so and having nightmares when they didn't used to, or just
Right.
period.
Yes.
I appreciate you even saying that. I shared last week, and I actually all of us did, which you don't really
Yes.
find so often. The four of us in this room last week
All had.
experienced childhood sexual abuse.
And I want to.
And
Yeah.
I want to.
See now, and here
The
we go
numbers are
again.
high.
I mean,
Isn't
the
that- it's
numbers are
ridiculous.
high. It is
Yeah.
ridiculous, and it's not talked about.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you even mentioning those signs because I'm sure that all of us can relate or even talk about our own signs, because some of the signs that I had was that when my mother went to go put me in the tub at night, I would scream and holler. And so she took me to the doctor. She know what was happening. And this inept doctor told my mother he needed to put me on birth control pill.
What?
And how old were you?
I had to be
Young.
no more than 11 or so. Yeah, really young. How can you? Yeah.
birth
Was
control
he calling
pill.
you promiscuous?
That's exactly what it
Yeah.
sounded like he was
Oh,
doing,
my
because I was
God.
like, what, Mom? I didn't even understand. I was
Right.
too young. So sometimes you can have inept preachers,
Yes.
because that was also an experience. Doctors, parents, teachers, and so finding that trusted adult.
Yes.
I thank you for making that first. It's
Yes.
so important.
Yes.
Trust.
Trust. It is.
That you're going to do something about it. My mother didn't know what to do, so she took me to the doctor. But also a lot of kids are not believed, and so it continues. I was one of those. So it's just so much out here.
We
Dr.
want
Childers and
we
Ayanna.
thank you for sharing that. And caller,
Yeah.
please feel free to call back and share your experience or your question, because this is something that needs to be talked about. And it's not
Yes.
just girls, it's men. We
It's
had a
boys,
man
yes.
last week, and I remember watching a T.D. Jakes male empowerment show one time.
Yeah.
Maybe you all saw it. And he asked all the men who had ever been touched or molested as a child to come up to get prayer. And I tell you, it was about 400 or 500 men that all
terrible.
came to.
Yeah.
Did anybody
what was
see
his
that?
name? The singer, Donnie McClurkin.
Donnie
Yes.
McClurkin.
He
I
was-
just
he
did
has
an
a
art. He just had an
struggle.
article
He called him
just
out.
last week that he's still struggling
Yeah.
in that area and has
Yeah.
he's decided to try not to do anything because he was going to marry a young lady at one point, another singer, but he's still struggling in that area. He prefers men over women, and because that's against God, he's just trying to be abstain, period.
Right.
But he was honest in this article, and that was just last week.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that more people are not honest about who they are.
Are.
Some people are completely comfortable in the skin they're in, And there are others who are uncomfortable for the reason that we already discussed. It's
Correct.
the shame,
Yes,
Stigma.
the guilt, yes.
and the blame of going
Yes.
to hell,
Yes.
and all that stuff that go along with being something that other than what is quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I ask individuals, sometimes, I had this scenario, what you do in your bedroom is your business. How would you feel, a stranger came up to you and said, how you get down in the bedroom? That's your business. And we have to learn to respect. Just it goes to about being respecting each other, respecting you.
Well,
It
can
goes
you
back to being
elaborate?
judged.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that a little? Because I'm trying to follow what you're saying. So are you saying,
So a person that's like, say if the person that's in the church and they're totally against a person that is in the LGBTQ community.
okay.
And they are just really down in them and just totally against it. But that is I do the scenario. I say a perfect stranger came to you and your husband, and you didn't know them, and they just came to you and say, hey, how do you get down in the bedroom? Do you do it this way? Do you do it that way? The look on their faces.
Correct.
So
yeah.
just to say, like,
I follow
it's,
now.
you
Thank
know,
you.
it's going about respecting each other, respecting adults.
Well, and then the Bible says, be careful to judge,
Right.
that you don't be judged. Okay, that's a
Exactly.
paraphrase.
Exactly.
But we have to be careful that we don't fall in the traps that we're pointing our finger. And I used to love what Dr. Sams used to say. Remember, when you point the finger, you have a thumb and
pointing
three
at you.
fingers pointing at you, which mean more, right? And I used to love that because it just made my mind click to be careful what I was
mindful.
saying and how I was judging people. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's all sin.
Amen. It's all sin.
So,
Yeah.
one sin is no greater a grade than the other one. Well, I got a sin, you got a B sin, you got a 9 sin, you got a 12 sin.
Yeah.
My sin is over here, it's all sin.
Well,
Yeah.
some people don't think that it's sin.
That's true.
Now I mentioned last week, and I'm gonna say again, because I've been there, and I saw that it was a spirit, and I needed to get it off of me. So, because when I read, I'm gonna tell you the 2 scriptures that said if you do da 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 da, you go into hell. I said, oh, well, I like this, but it ain't worth me going to hell forever.
Exactly.
So I prayed, fasted, cried, plead, cried, begged, fasted, get this out of me, and that's out.
And you're not the first person that I heard say that. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also now it allows me to recognize certain things that I need to recognize when they're in front of me. But as far as the church, you don't draw people from your condemnation and from your being mean to them. If you want me to hear anything you got to say, you love. Bible says you should draw people by the love. You don't hate the people, but the garments of sin they wear.
Right.
But the church does do too
first
much
hate
hating.
yours.
How about that? Hate yours.
Hate yours.
Because as you said,
They
see,
judge.
too much judgment going on,
Yeah.
and just because you might not have any outward sins, but the Bible says the thoughts of foolishness is sin.
Yeah.
So maybe you got bad thoughts, or too much gossip, or too much backbiting, or too much lying.
Is that not sin?
It is.
Right.
So
Different
check
types of
yourself.
sin.
As we
Right.
saying to you, while you pointing the finger at me, there's several others being pointed at you.
Yeah.
But I love that your program, Wake Up, seeks to educate youth and empower and inspire them
Yeah.
to make better decisions.
Yeah.
And so you have different programs that you offer. So tell me, your program, you always go out or they come in? I know you work with different organizations, Horizons and the other ones that you mentioned.
We have community partners.
Yes,
Okay.
So we always believe in collaborating and bringing other resources, because you may have something that we may not be offering. So we always collaborate.
Collaboration is always good when you're trying to reach the masses of people, and everybody has a different talent to lend. So we bring those talents together in order to get the message across.
Do you ever have people that come into your facility or no? It's all
I
outsourced.
run an adolescent health center.
Okay.
So I get it all day, every day.
Oh, okay.
And the foolishness. Oh my God. Who told you to what?
Yeah.
Well, during the pandemic,
crazy.
as you mentioned, it was nothing to do, right? And a lot of the numbers went up in domestic violence, the sexual assaults. I mean, everything.
Child
just
abuse.
yeah, child abuse.
You're
All
stuck
of
in a
those
house with
numbers.
people you can't stand.
Yeah.
You can't get away.
You can't get away.
Crazy.
As a matter of fact, they even said that the numbers of young marriages, a lot of divorces during that time.
Yeah.
And I would counsel women who were sick of their husbands. It was really interesting what was going on. But so did your numbers increase? Did you see more children coming into your facilities or more questions around with those type of needs, or
We saw a lot of mental health issues related to the pandemic. The schools were closed for a long time.
Long time, yes.
And so when
About
we
2 years,
resumed-
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we resumed normal business, and that first year that we were able to do a mass screening inside the school, we had like maybe about 15, 16 positives,
Okay.
young with gonorrhea and chlamydia both.
Wow.
And this
Now,
past
chlamydia is
school
treatable still, right?
both are still treatable, but gonorrhea is not responding well to the antibiotics.
So,
And it's going to soon go on that list of untreatables if we're not
my.
careful, if people don't learn to protect themselves and cut down on the spread and the transmission of gonorrhea.
it's becoming resistant to certain
It-
antibiotics.
Before
Yeah,
we're
the-
getting close
the
to when we have to
hormone
go
drugs.
for today, and two things you said I want you to tell us about your events, and you mentioned something about there are condoms that are may give you the feel of touching the skin more.
Okay,
Do
so
they still give out condoms to
Yeah, did you-
students?
no.
No.
Oh, okay.
And the
They
state
don't.
of Michigan is against the law.
Didn't they used to give them
dispense
out
birth
in the
control.
schools?
Never, ever.
Michigan is a very
It's-
conservative
yeah.
state.
It's
Okay.
against the law. A school that gives condoms or dispenses any type of birth control in the state of Michigan will lose their funding.
So how do the children, how do the youth or whomever get these condoms, and what is the name of the condom that makes you feel the skin a little bit more?
Okay, so they can get condoms free of charge with their Medicaid card.
What if I
And
don't
go
have
to-
Medicaid?
Then there are places in the community that we refer them to, like free clinics and the city of
The
Detroit.
city of Detroit, you can order your condoms from the mail from the city health department.
Yep.
Okay, so the
You get
city health
condoms.
department.
Health department.
Absolutely.
Detroit.
So parents can even order condoms for their children,
Yes.
Yes.
They can
And-
purchase them and they can order them. Yes.
and the children
And
can
they're
order
free.
them themselves,
They're
and they're
free.
free. We
They're
like free.
They're free.
So
free.
parents,
good.
listeners, you can get free condoms from the City of Detroit Health Department
Yes.
by calling them. Look it up on the internet and you can call
And
them.
we can give them condoms too.
And you can give them condoms too, and your number at Wake Up is
313.
998
999
999 869.
6898.
Say you say it. You say it.
9996898.
Okay.
And as far as the condoms, like the sheepskin, we don't really recommend those.
Those are the ones that
because
give you
they're
more of a
very-
feel.
Yeah, they're very thin and they may tear.
Ah.
So we don't recommend them, but if you just can't help yourself and you need a sheepskin, use a sheepskin. It's better than nothing.
Because that's usually
But
what
we
they
say
say.
use
I want to
lubricant.
feel the meat.
And
Oh,
there's
yeah.
and there's female condoms as well.
Yeah.
So a lot
Yeah.
of people
Female
The
condoms.
polyurethane they really don't
Yeah.
like.
Okay. And I used to tell the kids just a little dab will do you, so you need to cover up because all it takes is a drop to have a baby.
Absolutely. And then the lubrication helps. The
Okay.
more lubrication, the more that they can
Okay.
get the friction or whatever it is they're trying to feel. The lubrication helps. So we also give out lube
And also with oral sex, we give out dental dams as well.
for female to female.
Now, what are
type.
those?
Latex square. It's made of latex, much like the condom material.
And what did
And
it
it's
do
a
with
square
it?
that goes over the area, whichever area is being manipulated or stimulated.
So you put it on your
that there.
vagina?
Right across there.
Oh, you see, I'm like,
Barrier.
oh.
You must have a barrier
Okay.
to protect. I tell my youngsters, I don't care what kind of sex you having, you got to cover it up. It's so important to protect yourself. You only get one body. And I asked her, do you want to be struck out the game so young?
I wanted to ask because I know sometimes gonorrhea and syphilis, the symptoms can be silent.
Absolutely.
Yes. So what are because they can be silent and they know that they've been sexually involved, I guess, how do they know?
Well, a lot of times that's where the school-wide screening comes in.
Okay.
And that's why we have certain things that we do during a physical exam and a certain age, like 13, that's just part of the physical exam. They have to urinate in the cup. We'll send it off to be sure that they don't have anything. They may not have symptoms, like you said, but then by the time they do have symptoms, a lot of times it may have spread to the pelvic cavity, and they can have PID, pelvic inflammatory disease. And that's when it's spread to the pelvic cavity, and that's where the risk of scarring is great.
Wow.
So we want to get these youngsters tested, and we tell them if you're sexually active, you don't know what the other person is doing when they're not in your face. So you can best believe that if a person is 13, 14, 15 years old and just experimenting and learning about sex, they're not just having sex with you. That is a reality. Believe it. So you have to treat yourself accordingly. And when these youngsters are in high school learning how to manipulate through and navigate through relationships and dealing with people, this is setting them up for the adult world. So you have to learn then how to protect yourself.
So we are out of time, and I want us to tell about your events. So you have an HIV testing in Detroit, Hamtramck, and Highland Park, and you're offering some incentives.
So yes, we're giving out self-home testing. So we have a self-home test that we got through the CDC, and it's an HIV test.
Okay.
And it involves swabbing the mouth. Okay. And we are giving $25 incentives. So we have an event next Thursday, April the 6th, is Who Am I Without Them? It's a series of event that we've been doing. We started with the young ladies, then we did it with the males. So it's just a motivational.
So it's a $25 incentive to come to this event next Thursday, and people can go to your website to get more details in your web.
Or they can register Eventbrite, so they can go look under Wake Up, and it's
it's WAKEUPP.
Yes, and it's Who Am I Without Them?
Can they go to your website, wakeup.org, and get any info on the upcoming
event?
event?
Is it .org or .com?
.org.
Okay, good. Okay,
all
good.
our events should be listed there.
Okay.
Okay, good.
And you have a summer youth program in the form of a community garden where youth are paid to learn to garden.
Yes.
That is wonderful, and that's so good for them, and they can, that's gardening is growing.
I want to learn how to garden, but I'm not a youth.
You come be a volunteer.
Always looking for volunteers.
Good, okay.
When my son was little, we used to do it with the 4-H program. He was in 4-H, and we would work with the seniors and help with the garden, and that gave them something. We collaborated.
Yes.
And they got to work with the older people and learn gardening. So we thank you so much for coming. You have something else?
Well, I just want to ask them, is there some last words that you would like to leave with us or with the audience today?
I just want them to wake up.
Yes. Wake up.
I love
that.
I love that. Yes.
So thank you all for coming, for being our guest.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
You.
Yes.
And we are going to get you people to come to wakeup.com.
.org.
Why do I keep wanting to say .com?
.org. With 2 P's. UPP.
So give them your number and your
313-999-6898.
Okay. You heard it here first. Wakeup.org.
Yes.
Go there. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, see you soon.
See you soon.
I was fast.
So much to say and so little time to say.
It goes by quickly.
It does.
I enjoyed myself.